and to look at the perspective from the point of view of service providers. So I'm hoping that we're going to be joined by some very significant figures in this world. In fact, I can see them there now. Ben Carter from Icon Relocation, Ginny De Gregorio from EY, and Jacqueline Van Haften from Global Connect. Thank you, all three of you, for joining us. I'll be asking you a few questions in this part of the program. And as I say, we're looking at how service providers have reacted. Ginny De Gregorio, now I understand that you actually are quite a recent expat yourself, so you've had some pretty immediate experience of how it is having to deal with being an expat and the COVID-19 crisis. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, so hi, John. Yes, I am part of the UI business, and I work as an advisor in mobility transformation. I've been an expat myself. I transferred from many countries in EMEA in the past 10 years as a single person, as a full family, etc. So I have a very deep personal and professional experience on what a move around Europe could mean. Recently, during this phase of pandemic crisis, we've seen our clients changing their focus, right? Moving from the business as usual more into a crisis management mode, and having to put in place a number of different actions to, let's say, ensure business continuity. Our clients have leaned on us in terms of having support on putting in place the necessary actions to make sure their employees that were maybe stranded abroad in another country had the right support, their policies was ready to adjust and support, for example, emergency repatriation or remote guidelines on how to manage virtual workers, etc. So as a consultant and as advisor, we have changed our way to work with our clients because we had to react and try to be helpful. Also, together with these, there was an overflow of information, and we have tried to channel those in a very appropriate way, try to flex as per our client needs, offering opportunity of, for example, getting direct information on new business and legislation changes and new regulation coming into place. Big team was about clearly compliance and all the compliance issue that maybe a stranded employee working from a location that wasn't the original ones planned could imply. Also providing some help and guidance on the management of remote working, which is not something that every business was ready to do. Ourselves, we are, and I still am, working from home, so we need to try to manage teamwork in an effective way in this new reality.
I think, Ginny, I mean, you're responsible for transforming mobility, at least I think that's your job title. But so I can't resist asking you what is likely to happen in the future. Which of these changes do you think are going to stick around?
Yeah, look, I want to be positive, and I want to think that we will go back to a sort of business as usual, but clearly there will be a change. This pandemic crisis is being a wake-up call for many businesses. There will be two things in my personal view. First, and also as Mark and Michael mentioned before, there would be a more mixed type of mobility. If maybe 6 months ago we're talking about how robots and employee will live together and work together, now we need to consider remote working as well. Also, there will be a change in the way assignments will be planned from an employer perspective, where cost containment and cost management will be right back at the top of the agenda of every business. But also the employee willingness to move. I mean, I think there will be a greater attention to try to keep their family at home. Maybe someone had not very great experience in terms of the healthcare system in the host country, so they want to try to manage their role in a different way. Maybe rather than a long-term assignment, they will prefer a short-term assignment and then try to manage the their role with virtual work and also with business travelers. So there will be a different way. Mobility, once again, will be asked to become more strategic and manage a more complex scenario that probably wasn't like that before. If we look at how mobility has evolved in the past 10 to 15 years, is a completely different background. Move are shorter, quicker, and more mixed, and this will be even more relevant for the future. And also mobility strategy perspective. I think all our clients will have to rethink to their mobility strategy, try to make sure it is aligned again with the change landscape for business and talent requirement.
Okay, Ginny, I'm aware of the time, so and I've got Ben and Jacqueline to bring in, but I mean that's fascinating. Ben, if I can turn to you now, I mean you're with Icon Relocation, which is a relocation company based here in the UK. I noticed at the front page of your website you have virtual home search already in place. Without looking too far in the future, because we're going to try and tie things together, I mean, up until now, have you had to make big changes given the things we've been through?
Yes, I think we've been looking at government guidelines both in the UK and overall around the world. I have to say, being part of the Harmony Group has helped us greatly because we've been able to have owner operators that have responded very quickly, from the fact of PPE on the ground, just the fact that everybody's had to have C19 policies put in place. I know as a management team, we've never spoken so much in the last sort of 8 weeks to put things in place, especially for the new, facilities like Zoom, for instance, and also having our team remotely. So that changes how we do things. But fundamentally, we have to have people on the ground. And for the first thing we did was how do we protect those people and how do we protect the assignee in the process? So we have come up with a virtual destination services program. We have to mirror that for certain clients who are willing to pay extra or not pay extra, as it may be. But yeah, it has throwing out a whole lot of challenges throughout the whole process. Just one instance, if you look at the government guidelines for household goods in the UK, they want everybody to clean absolutely every item in the house, including all the personal effects, children's toys. Now, how practically is that going to work? Is that going to work? We all know the pitfalls, and those are the kinds of pitfalls worldwide that we've been dealing with. I have to say, the supply chain has really come into its fore here. The way that they've been able to rally, been able to fulfil what we've needed and do it in a safe way. It's challenging. We're not there yet. We're still figuring out some of these services. We're taking guidance from our corporate clients. We're also getting requests for a lot of costings. So obviously people are looking at policies, looking at rejigging their policies. I think Generation C and the way we interact with our potential assignees is going to change. I think there'll be a lot more e-commerce, and at Icon, I can only speak for Icon, we're putting that in place as we speak, so that people can get to us a lot quicker and the process can be a lot simpler. So I'm quite positive for the future, and we've got a lot of cases pending. It's not like every corporate client's gone, we're not going to send anybody, it's just on hold, and we're constantly in contact with the assignees, making sure that they're safe, making sure that they have everything they need, even through to, in the UK, the government are muting with quarantine. Elsewhere in the world, there is quarantine. How do you respond to that if someone does get ill, and then you have to make sure the practicalities of getting them groceries to them? So yeah, it has been challenging. It's been interesting. I'm hoping that we're going to have a little bit of an ease around the world, and the numbers decrease so that we can move around easily. But there are going to be changes. There are going to be policies. We're all going to have to fulfill the need of the client, both from the assignee perspective and the corporate client and the compliance. But in general, it's positive.
Great, thanks, Ben. So finally, amongst the panel now, we've got Jacqueline van Haften. Jacqueline, Global Connect deals, I think you're in the Netherlands, incidentally. I should have been asking more people where you are in the Netherlands. I mean, you're dealing with expat partner support. I guess if there are not so many expats moving around, you don't need to have quite so much worry about expat partners, or maybe that's completely the opposite.
Well, first of all, if you look at the changes for us actually nothing changed, which is interesting because we are a full virtual organization from the very start. And more or less coincidentally, because we only work for multinationals who provide a global strategic partner support program. So from the start, we straight away started to serve as partners in over 140 countries, more than 90 nationalities. There's no way you can do that with people on the ground if you want to provide the best support, because the chance that, especially when you have a broad program, we can help people find a job, set up a business, find voluntary work, find education. If you do that in 140 countries for 90 different nationalities, the chance that the best match for that partner lives around the corner is practically zero. So that's why we started to work virtual. And so for us, actually nothing changed. The requests changed a little bit. There's less job search assistance, obviously, at the moment. We are anyhow helping partners with online education, because if you live in Bujumbura or Lubumbashi, there's also not a university around the corner to do a master. And that's why we know all these online options already. You can study online at Harvard. So the only thing we as a company need is a good internet connection. And that's also what partner needs. And I just heard the remark, will families move? I was actually talking about that this morning with the Global Mobility Manager. We think partner support only gets more important because I think people look differently at leaving their country and live somewhere else.
Okay, Jacqueline, that's fascinating. The two Davids are still with us, but David Ensor, you look like you're itching to have a question. Do you?
Yeah, I do. Thank you. Good you noticed.
I didn't notice, David.
I'd probably put a question. You talk about the role of and the relevance of partner support and things like this and spousal options, but the scope, the different services are evolving and changing. Do you expect there to be then some consciously new things, new service lines, new opportunities that you might insert in, as part of your overall offering?
Well, I think for us, the most important at the moment is we had a hard time to convince people it is possible to work with a full virtual organization. A lot of people still think you need brick and mortar to prove that you're doing something which makes sense. Will it change? I don't think a lot will change for what we provide, because we already see, for instance, if you can work in a certain country, then most probably we will still be able to help partners to work. But a recent survey that we did together with RES shows that 70% of the partners, for them, a paid job is actually not the answer to what they're looking for. I think we will it will be easier for us to promote, for instance, as I said, online studying, but also learning a language online. You don't need to have a tutor at home to learn a language. There's digital options. So we are you can't say we are super happy with the situation, but at least I won't have to explain anymore that virtual options can be really good.
Jacqueline and David, I'm going to just draw this section to a conclusion, because we're actually 35. We're now 35 minutes past the hour, and we're now going to move